Hello students. Now in continuation with the soil pollution chapter, we are going to look at one more topic in that, which is called as biomagnification. Okay. So biomagnification means what? Bio means life. Bio means life. Magnification means to increase or to look at a bigger picture. Okay. Right. Now moving on to the introduction. Now this is the definition for biomagnification. Biomagnification is the process in which toxins are concentrated in an organism as larger animals continue to eat smaller animals. So these toxins, whatever are there, they are getting concentrated in a organism when in a organism as a larger organism continues to eat smaller animals. Now this statement you'll understand as we are going further. Okay. Then this process moves toxins up the food chain to larger organisms and is of particular concern with regard to concentrating dangerous toxins in larger species. So say for example, on plants, okay, you are spraying pesticides. Okay, on plants you are spraying pesticides. Okay, right? Now when you are spraying pesticides on the plant is eaten by a deer. Okay, right? Now the deer can be eaten by a lion. Okay, now this is the top predator basically. So whatever pesticides are present on the plant, they are getting magnified or they are entering into the deer. Okay, and this deer is being eaten by the lion. So the pesticides whatever were taken in from the plant into the deer, now these pesticides are getting magnified into the lion. Now what is happening here? From a species it is going to a different species. So those pesticides are increasing in concentration in those particular animals. Okay, right? So I'll repeat this definition once again. Biomagnification is the process in which toxins are concentrated in an organism as larger animals continue to eat smaller animals. This process moves toxins. So toxins here I can write it as pesticides. Okay, this toxins I can write it as pesticides. This process moves pesticides up the food chain to larger organisms and is of particular concern with regard to concentrating dangerous toxins, that is the pesticides, in larger species. Okay, so this is basically what is biomagnification. Now moving on. Now we will see biomagnification in detail now. So what is biomagnification? Increase in the contaminated substances caused by intoxicating environment. So what is happening here? These are the contaminants. Say for example, I gave an example of pesticides here. Now these are the contaminated substances. Okay, now these contaminated substances are intoxicating the environment, right? Now the contaminants might be heavy metals such as mercury. So what are the contaminants which are intoxicating the environment? You can have mercury, you have arsenic, and you have pesticides as we have taken it earlier. Then pesticides such as polychlorinated biphenyls and diphenyl trichloroethane, that is DDT. Okay, right? So these are basically polluting the environment. Okay, right? Then these substances are taken up by the organisms through the food they consume. So say for example, if on the plant all these pesticides are present, all these metals, heavy metals are there in those particular plants. Okay, now that plant is being consumed by the organisms here. Okay, that plant, say for example, is consumed by a deer. Okay, right? Now through the food they are entering. So the plant is a food for the deer. So from the food it is entering into the deer. Okay, when the organism in the higher food chain feeds on the organism in the lower in the food chain. So higher in the food chain is the top predator basically in the food chain. So when a higher organism in the food chain is feeding on the lower organism in the food chain, what is happening? The lower organism is already containing these toxins. Okay, the lower organism, whatever is there, it is already containing these toxins, and these toxins get what? They get accumulated in higher concentration in the higher organism of the food chain. Okay, so that is basically what is biomagnification. Now moving on, causes of biomagnification. So we will see what are the causes that biomagnification has come into picture. Okay, right? Now agriculture in biomagnification. How is it contributing to biomagnification? Now, the agricultural pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers and fungicides are very toxic and are released into the soil, river, lakes and seas. Okay. Now, these substances contain small amounts of heavy metals such as mercury, arsenic, copper, lead and cadmium. Now, these cause health issues in aquatic animals, organisms and humans. Okay. Now, say for example, what is happening in agriculture now? In order to protect the plant from, say, pests like rodents, okay, like fungus, okay, like bacteria, the farmers, they use these pesticides, insecticides and fertilizers. Okay. Now, when the farmers use these in their fields, okay, now these are sprayed on the plant and they also drip onto the soil. Okay, right? So when they also drip into the soil, okay, they are again, the soil is again watered, so that water is actually taking those heavy metals into the channels, small river channels. Okay. Now then through the channels, these heavy metals are entering into the rivers, and from there it is entering into the lakes, and from the lakes it is entering into the lakes, and also the river, you know that it goes and mixes into the sea. So all these heavy metals also go and mix in the seas. Okay. Now what is happening when this is occurring? Now here there are many organisms which depend on rivers and lakes, just like us humans and also other organisms. So when they are drinking that water from the river, okay, and when they are also hunting for, say for example, fishes in the river, okay, now because the fishes have already taken up all these heavy metals in them, when you are catching them and when you are eating them, these heavy metals are again entering into your system. Okay, right? So, and when they are entering into a sea, it is a mass scale, that is, many aquatic organisms are living in the sea, and these metals are going and entering into those particular organisms' bodies also. So because of that, we are getting, or the organisms are getting, a lot of health issues. Okay. Now these health issues are very, very dangerous, and sometimes they can lead to death as well. Okay. Now that is basically what is agriculture. Okay, right? How biomagnification is seen in agriculture. Then you have organic contaminants. Now manures and biosolids are processed industrially and contain contaminants like pharmaceuticals and personal care products. These substances have an adverse impact on health of humans, animals and wildlife. Now you know that you have certain pharmaceutical industries and personal care products, okay, like your sunscreen, okay, then your tablets which you take for headache, all these things. Okay. Now when these are manufactured, okay, these are manufactured, when these are manufactured, they are actually processed industrially. That is, when I say manufactured, that means they are processed industrially. Okay, they are processed industrially. Now when they are processed industrially, there are many other things, contaminants, which are used in the manufacture of these pharmaceuticals and personal care products. Okay, right? Now when they are used, okay, when they are used, these, when they are being used by us, okay, say for example, we are using say sunscreen lotion on our body. Okay, so you go in the morning, it is still there on your body, it is protecting you against the sunscreen, that's what the makers say, and it is doing its job. But when you come back home and you have a fresh bath, all that sunscreen is getting removed from your body and it is entering into the drainage system, and from there into the drainage. Okay, right? Now, so that sunscreen portion, whatever you have left out from your body, is directly entering into the drains. Okay, and then that is going into that drain is connected to some lakes. Okay, so this sunscreen lotion, whatever chemicals are there in that, are entering into the lakes. Okay, so when they are entering into the lakes, the organisms are having them, and again when we eat them, they are directly again back, they are entering back into our system. Okay, and they are causing health issues in humans, animals, and wildlife. Okay, so manures and biosoils are very, very much say, I will not say dangerous, but they are affecting the organisms. Okay, right? So this is one of the other causes of biomagnification. Then industrial activities. The third factor is industrial activities. Now, when I say industrial activities, the industries and factories release toxic substances that are released into the soils, lakes, oceans, and rivers. Okay. Now, the gaseous emissions pollute the environment, which enter into the food chain, leading to biomagnification. Okay, right. Now, the industries and the factories release toxic substances that are released into the soils, lakes, and rivers. So, industrial activities are there. So, in order for us to produce something which is useful, we are taking the help of the industry. So, the industries are processing that and they are giving us. Okay, right? Now, when we are doing that, the industries, what are they doing? The industries, though they are giving us a product, but when they are processing that product, there are certain intermediates which are coming in that particular product. Now, these intermediates needs to be neutralized and then it has to be sent out into the atmosphere. Okay, right? But the industries, what they do, some of the industries, they don't bother to neutralize those particular harmful intermediates. Okay, so these are again sent back into the soils, lakes, oceans, and rivers. Okay, and the same old story will again repeat. That is, these all will be taken up by the organisms which are living in these water bodies. Okay, and also the land. Okay, and then they can lead to biomagnification. Okay, so industrial activities are also very, very impactive on biomagnification. Then mining activities in the ocean. So this is also one of the factor. Now, mining activities are carried out in the deep sea to extract metal like zinc, aluminium, cobalt, silver, and gold. So you already know that mining is done in the sea to extract all these metals. Okay, right? So when mining is done for these metals, the mining process generates a large amount of selenium and sulfide. Okay, so mining process, yes, it is true. Mining process generates selenium and sulfide. Okay, now which deposits in water and destroys the oceans and coastal regions. So this selenium and sulfide, they deposit they get deposited in the water and destroy the oceans and the coastal regions. Okay, so selenium and sulfides are very, very dangerous in nature. So when they enter our body, okay, say for example through marine animals, when they enter our body, they can cause a lot of damage. That is, they can cause a lot of health issues. Say for example, your digestive issues can come, your respiratory issues can come, and also there can be some reproductive issues which are popping up because of these selenium and sulfide. Okay, right? Now, the level of toxicity is increased. These toxic substances are absorbed by the aquatic organisms higher in the food chain. Okay, so the top predator, whatever is there in the food chain, it will absorb those particular selenium and sulfide, and then they can be used up by us, and then those heavy metals, all these selenium and sulfide can enter. Okay, generally people call it as selenium sulfide, okay, but I demarcate it as selenium and sulfide because you need to understand what are the two things, that substances that are entering into your system. Okay, right, moving on. Now, effects of biomagnification. So now we have seen the causes of biomagnification, that is agriculture, organic contaminants, then industrial activities, mining activities in the ocean. So we have seen all these. Okay, now we will see what are the causes of what are the effects of biomagnification. The following are the effects of biomagnification on living organisms and the environment. Okay, so the following we will see. Impact on human health. So what are the effects of biomagnification? We had been discussing in the factors, that is impact on the human health. So health of the human being is impacted when biomagnification is seen. How is it? We'll see. Biomagnification makes humans more prone to cancer, kidney problems, liver failure, birth defects, respiratory disorders, and heart disease. Okay, right? So when humans are consuming these heavy metals through the process of through biomagnification, okay, now when the heavy metals are entering into your system, they are causing cancer, kidney related disorders, liver failure, birth defects, respiratory disorders, and heart diseases. So these are all the impact that the biomagnification is having on human health. Okay, right, moving on. Now, effects on reproduction and development of marine creatures. So I told you there is also effect on reproduction. Okay, and when the reproduction is affected, then the development of marine creature is also affected. Okay, let's see how. Now, the toxic chemicals accumulate in the important organs of the aquatic organisms that affect their reproduction and development process. So what is happening here? It same occurs with humans also. Now, some of these toxic substances, they get accumulated in the organs of, or the important organs of, or I can say the reproductive organs of the aquatic organism. So when they are getting accumulated over there, the process of reproduction is getting affected and the development process is affected. Once the reproductive processes are affected, then the development process is also affected. Okay, then for example, we'll see an example now. The shell of eggs of the seabirds are very thin, that might get crushed by birds themselves during incubation. Now, the toxic chemicals mercury and selenium destroy the reproductive organs of aquatic creatures. So now, generally if you take an egg of a hen, say for example I am taking an egg of a hen. Okay, now the egg of a hen, if I am putting it like this in this position and I am trying to crush it, it will not break that easily. Okay, but if I am doing this way and trying to crush it, it will break very, very easily. But nowadays the hen's egg, if I crush it like this also, it is getting broken. Okay, why is it getting broken? Because the reproductive cycle of that particular hen might have got disturbed by some harmful chemicals like mercury and selenium. Okay, now this is a common thing in aquatic organisms also. Now when the seabirds are incubating their eggs, okay, now the seabirds, when they incubate the egg, they sit on the egg. Incubation means they're sitting on the egg and giving the warmth for the egg so that the chicks can develop. Okay, the chicks can come out of it. Okay, now when these sea creatures or sea birds are sitting on the egg, sometimes what happens, because the shell of the egg was very, very thin, the shell actually breaks. Okay, now when the shell breaks, the chick can no longer come, and that means the chick development is stopped. Okay, and why is that happening? Because why is that thin shell coming? It is coming because of these toxic chemicals which are destroying the reproductive organs of these particular birds, and the eggs which are coming out with shells which are very, very thin. Okay, so that is the effect of reproduction and development on marine creatures. Then you have destruction of coral reefs. Now coral reefs play a very, very important role in maintaining the ecosystem. Okay, right? Now cyanide that is used in launching gold and fishing is the main cyanide that is used in leaching gold. So okay, sorry, I'm so sorry. Cyanide is used in leaching gold. So leaching means what? Removing of gold from the minerals. Okay, so cyanide is used. So cyanide is very, very dangerous. Okay, right? Cyanide is very, very dangerous, and this cyanide is used for getting gold. Okay, right? And fishing is the main cause of destruction of the coral reefs. So fishing also and cyanide also is very destructive in for the coral reefs. Okay, now coral reefs are the dwelling and feeding grounds for many sea creatures. So coral reefs, what they do, once they are developed, they form a feeding ground for many sea creatures. So they come in search of food. Many sea creatures come here in search of food near the coral reefs. Okay, now their destruction affects the life of many aquatic animals. Now because these kind of toxic substances are used by us, now they are affecting the coral reefs, and when they are affecting the coral reefs, the organism will not come here for the search of food, and when the organism doesn't come in for the search of food, these organisms they starve to death, because they are dependent on coral reefs for their food, and if they are not able to find food over there, automatically they will die. Okay, then that is about destruction of coral reef. Then you have disruption of food chain. Okay, so when I say disruption of food chain, so as I said, we are talking about biomagnification. So see here, this is the producer. Okay, now this grass is being eaten by the primary consumers, which is the grasshopper. Okay, now you can see here the toxic substances whatever are there in the plant. It was 0.04 ppm, that is parts per million. Now it has grown to 0.23, that is it has been magnified to 0.23 parts per million. And once from the primary consumer, the grasshopper is eaten by the frog. Okay, now from here the toxins have entered here, and here these two, 1 plus 1 is 2, and from here this has been eaten by the frog. So these two are carrying the toxins and they are entering. So plant is present inside the grasshopper, and in the grasshopper also there are toxins. So these are eaten by the frog. So that is the secondary consumer, and the toxin level has magnified to 2.07. And when these grasshoppers are eaten by the tertiary consumers, you can see that the toxin level have been magnified here as well. Okay, so these are the tertiary consumers. So this is basically what is biomagnification. Okay. Okay, right. Now, how is it disrupting the food chain? We'll see. The chemicals and toxins which are released into the water bodies disrupt the food chain. The small organisms absorb the toxins which are eaten up by larger animals. That's what we have seen just now. These toxins thus get accumulated in the higher level of the organism. So you can see the level of toxins which got accumulated here in the tertiary consumer. So it is the maximum. Okay, so that is what biomagnification can do. It affects the tertiary consumers or the top predators very much. Okay, right? So in today's session we have seen what is biomagnification, we have seen the definition, we have seen the agents which are causing them. Okay, and we have seen the causes of biomagnification, that is the agricultural, how it is causing biomagnification, organic contaminants, how it is causing biomagnification. Then we have seen industrial activities which are contributing to biomagnification. Then mining, how it is contributing to biomagnification. Then we have seen the effects of biomagnification, that is impact of human health, that is how is biomagnification affecting human health, how it is affecting the reproductive cycles of the marine creatures, then how it is disrupting the coral reefs, and how it is disrupting the food chain. Okay, right? So I hope that you have understood this session very well. I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you so much.